Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be unboxing, putting together, and testing this NS892. It's a Neotec, Stihl clone chainsaw. A good buddy of mine, he's actually a logger, a professional logger. He's a Husky guy, I'm an Echo guy. He bought two of these Neotecs just because, $350, $400 for a 90cc chainsaw. It's pretty amazing, considering a Stihl or a Husky Pro 90cc chainsaw. Well, I think all 90cc chainsaws are usually pro saws. I'm not a pro logger. But anyway, he bought two of them. He put one of them together and we went out one day and used it, and we cut a couple, probably about 30 or so inch trees, fell them, and seemed to run pretty good. But he said that there wasn't any actual assembly instructions for the saw, and there wasn't really any videos. It was just, people testing them or taking a look at them. So we're gonna do just that. We're gonna pull it out, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually assemble it piece by piece. You'll get to see that on camera. And then on top of that, as I'm doing that, I'm gonna do an inspection of things that I've seen on other videos, like carburetors being screwed up, the C-clip on the chain drive gear. Apparently that's been missing before and the chain comes flying off. So we're gonna do a quick inspection of everything. I'll probably even pop the muffler off. Actually, when I have the carburetor off, we'll go ahead and take a look inside the cylinder just to make sure it looks good. Then we'll go ahead and top it off, start it up, and put it through a couple logs. And I'd like to see how it compares to this Echo CS620, which is a professional chainsaw as well, but it's only 60cc. Now, I had this saw out there that day we were following those big trees, and yeah, the 90cc was definitely stronger, but I'm kind of curious. I've got a couple other videos of a 590 versus this, an Echo CS590 versus the 620, this and a CS400 versus a Husky 55, I think is what it was. So anyway, it should be fun, and we'll do a quick tune on it, the out-of-the-box tuning. That seems to be a big question. I'm part of a couple different forums, and initial tuning and follow-on tuning, it's actually really, really easy. So we'll do that as well, and you'll get to see it all, and here we go. Light and tough solid bar. Now that doesn't look solid. I mean, it is solid, but it looks a lot like my Samara bar with that, I don't know, some sort of poly impregnated bar to help cut down on the weight. Now obviously this probably is not going to be an Oregon chain. From what I remember reading, it was a 3/8 063 chain. I'm not a big fan of the 063 because it doesn't match anything else I use. Let's see if the bar says the same thing on it. 25-inch 063. 25-inch. Why would that say 25? I don't know. All right, so here's what you get out of the box. I was looking at the manual earlier, and I did look through this just to see if it had assembly instructions, and it really didn't. Cute little toolkit here. I can't believe you actually get a couple spur gears with this. You got two different types. You got a 3/8 by 1 and a 404 by 7. This here is the dogs. They're shiny, but they kind of actually feel a little bit flimsy. Yeah, they are what they are. And we've got all of this, which I'm not even sure what it is. Okay, so we got a chain gauge, a grinder gauge, a grinding wheel gauge. That I'm assuming is just a stand, I think, maybe. Put this on the bar and it'll be a stand. These little doodads, I have no idea. Okay, that's it. And then we got a little baggie of hardware. So this is what he was talking about. You get a baggie of hardware and the chainsaw comes in pieces. He bought the full wrap. Wow, super big chain cover there, bar cover. Side cover. Well, okay. Saw itself, or the power head. Oh, that's kind of cute. Get a pair of ear muffs. These are almost the worst gloves I think I've ever seen. Not sure yet. I think that's the skid plate. That's cool. And basically the worst pair of safety glasses you can find. I hope that isn't the, no, it's not. I don't know what the hell that's for. Okay, well, here's the power head, and I will say this little pouch of tools you get, I mean, obviously they're China junk tools, but it is kind of nice that they give you an actual T-handle, Torx, and I think 8mm. So, hey, I can't really complain about that, and I'll go ahead and use them, but let's get the filter cover off first. I did hear that a bunch of people like to get rid of the compression release. So, Now, back here, I'm already noticing they put a little O-ring right on the threads there, that stud, which honestly ain't too bad. Although most people might not recognize that and just end up throwing it. Now, so here's our kill switch. That chick mechanic, she had an issue where she tried to kill it and it wouldn't kill. And looking in here, I can see that the grounding tab, it's close enough. It's one thing I prefer about the Echo is that the kill is down, not up. When I'm using it and I want to kill it, all I got to do is that. Some people say, oh, well, you accidentally. I've never accidentally killed the saw with the kill switch, so I don't know. So I can't tell if that just wasn't cleaned off of there or not. See how that one protrudes? The rest of them do not. I don't know why that's like that. It is very kind of chintzy in here. This is definitely where the real deal makes a big difference. The little clip that holds the trigger release in place, or the bars there, one side is full width and the other side is paper thin. It doesn't really have a whole lot of grip on that. Let's pop this diaphragm cover off of here. That chick mechanic had, when she did it, the diaphragm was goofy looking and the fuel fill needle was screwed up. So this diaphragm, compared to what I saw on her channel, this diaphragm actually looks just fine. And so does the plunger and needle seat. On hers, that was upside down and the needle was jammed in, not allowing fuel. It was either jammed in or jammed out. I don't remember what she said, but okay, so that looks good. I will say that impulse line is extremely loose. So I'm going to assume that that part is okay. Let's pull the plug out. Looks like it's already been used. So our fit and finish is definitely not that great. We've got all these little pieces of plastic just from the moldings just kind of hanging off the edges here. So I'm just going to kind of clean those up just a little bit. That'll make these shrouds and other pieces go together better. Let's see if I can't see in the cylinder. Okay, well, the piston itself doesn't look too bad. There is a little bit of scoring, but not too bad. There it is. That's the cylinder walls. Let's see if I can't get this piston to come up. Top end looks pretty good. Looking through the carburetor, I couldn't really see anything. So I think as far as internals, probably just fine, no real issues. Yeah, I certainly would not be too hopeful that this is going to keep the smalls and the fines out of there. I mean, it's not a bad filter setup, it's just the way that everything meets back here is just not very good. Okay, now just as a pre-adjustment, I'm gonna take both the high and the low, run them all the way in, bring them out just one turn, but I'll count them on the way in. Half, one, they're almost 4 turns out. Seems kind of excessive. There we go, we're seated. It was almost 5 turns out, that was the low. Idle set we will worry about later. Now let's take a quick look at everything else. So up under here, our C-clip, or E-clip rather, is in good shape. Bar nuts, chintzy, kind of loose. Like, that's a little bit more play than I would normally like. Okay. This here is plastic, but this is aluminum. So the actual backing plate here is nylon, plastic, something or other. You can see, whereas that is not. You can. All right, so putting on the handle wrap. You just put it up and over your chain brake, okay? Put it up and over your chain brake, flip it over. You're gonna have 2 screws that go there and 2 that go over here. And this has already got 1 of them installed. You're gonna need 1 long one and 1 short one for this side. I'm just being extra careful when I run these in, not just cramming them down there, kind of working it little by little, just because this plastic probably has not had threads actually cut in them. Okay, so now we've got that on there. Now let's get this side plate and the dogs all put together. Standard Stihl looking skidders on here, and yeah, they're trash. Other than that, the rest of it just cast aluminum. Now that piece is nice. That's actually a really nice rubber flap. It actually feels better than most of the saws that I deal with. Okay, now this one, so it looks like we are going to have to pull these wear strips out. So after those screws go in, what the hell? The only way to fix that is to turn it around and have the bolt head sticking out, or the bolt shank sticking out, which seems really stupid. All right, on this one, this dog won't sit straight because of a casting line or mark, a remnant right there from the cast. When you go to put that in position, the hole doesn't line up properly there because it's caught up on this casting mark right here. So I will file down that casting mark just a smidge. All right, so now our casting mark is taken care of, and yes, it now sits where it's supposed to. That chain roller just gets pinched between the bars, or the dogs. Yep, there should be. Now there's 3 pieces left here. Those I think are for the bar, the wrap underneath, if you're not using the skid plate. So I think that's accounted for. Now this is the plug for your compression release. So I'm gonna try it with the compression release installed, and personally I don't think it's gonna matter. The one that I used the other day, I think it had the compression release in it still, and there was no issues with that, but apparently a lot of people get rid of that right away. Take a quick look at this chain just to see how sharp it actually is. The grind actually looks okay. Nothing to write home about, and it's definitely not a safety chain. But it doesn't look too bad. Here's a close-up of the bar. We'll get that lubed up too. It does have a grease hole right there. Again, it says it's solid, and I'm assuming that these parts right here are just filled. Let's check that. So we got a rare earth neodymium magnet, and it definitely sticks to the rest of it, but it does not stick to right there. No problem. So yeah, it is theoretically a lightweight bar, which is kind of nice actually. The one that I keep on my saw, Sumara, Japanese made, that thing cost $100. So it's kind of nice. If you don't have something like this set up for your saws, I would highly recommend it. Get yourself one of these push greasers. Kind of wish there was one on the other side too, but oh well. I would normally do this with the bar facing me, but just so everybody else can see. So by far my biggest complaint about this saw is the chain tensioner. At this point right here, I'm just realizing that there's issues with the chain tensioner. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward through all my troubleshooting to what I think worked the best to somewhat solve the issue. I definitely didn't solve it completely, but it definitely helped. I took apart the whole thing several times and I played with it and messed with it, but here we go. All right, so I've been tinkering with this thing for a few minutes here, and I think I got it good enough. I'll give you a real quick view of what I'm talking about. So the two drive gear, or the two gears inside of there are just like some nasty pop metal, and they suck. It's gonna be the gear under this and that guy, okay? I hit them with the wire wheel. I got the bench grinder wire wheel, and I just held them under there and got all the burrs off the edges. They did not clean up those. They are not machined. Well, honestly, I just think they're cast. I think they're cast gears and then cut on the edges or something. It definitely didn't look quality, and they just did not mesh together nicely. This M4 screw that holds down the back plate inside of here, right there, the hole was stripped out. Now, fortunately, these screws are pretty short, maybe a 1/4 inch long, and the hole was tapped out to almost a 1/2 inch. So I was able to find a longer M4 screw, just a regular Phillips head screw. I ground down the shank till it was the right length to hit the bottom of the hole there, and then I ground down the head to be thin enough to fit behind the slider itself. So if you run into this issue, that is a fix. And it's still not perfect, but you can see I can run it all the way forward now, and it doesn't hang up going forward, but it does hang up coming back. It tends to hang up right as it's covering the plastic piece, like right in there. Now I'll put the cover plate back on it and you can see what I'm talking about. Apparently I am not the first one to run into this. Like, that one is not stripped, that's solid. About halfway forward, I'll go ahead and run it all the way back. Tends to catch up right there. Still got about a 1/4 inch to go. I found if I just push on it and get it all the way back, here it was kind of grindy there, but you need it further back to get that doggone chain on there. That should get us good for the chain. Let's try it again.
It's still really snug, but run here.
Okay, there we go. Now I should be able to run it forward. It's even still kind of grindy right there, now that there's some pressure on it. That looks better. What a pain in the butt. Now we got to get our roller, chain roller, in the other dog. Why is that not lining up? There we go. Here's how I tighten my blades, which this one being a brand new chain, it's going to be snug. Normally I would have this facing me so I can work off the edge of the bench, but just so you can see it, I push forward on the tip of the blade. Make sure your brake is off, push forward, push down on your chain like that so that it gets a little droop in it. Then go ahead and tighten it. It is rough. This is easily the worst chain tensioner I have ever touched. Old Poland's are better than this. I'd rather have it sticking out front there than have to deal with this crap. Okay, it moves. Barely. Yeah, we're just gonna fire it up without the chain on there. All right, let's get some fuel and oil in this thing. I've never filled up a chainsaw with a full wrap bar on it. Huh. They give you a Stihl style retainer, but there's nothing, it's not hooked to anything. Now I'm going to pull it over for a few times without the switch on, just to kind of get things cycling through here. Okay, now we'll turn it on and choke it. Choke off, or first step choke. Okay, we're gonna go back to one step choke. Okay, so The low is definitely not where it should be. They had it at 4, so let's see what 4 does. Okay, runs, oiler is definitely working. And when we go out to actually put it in some lumber, I'll go ahead and turn the oiler up just a smidge. Let's go ahead and get this chain bar back on. Let's try this cool little thing. Nope, worthless. I suppose if you're pushing on it and keeping it there, it'd be great. Junk. All right, let's try it like that. Well, I just saw a little nut come flying off. That's one of those supposed to be nylock nuts, and the inside, the actual nylock part of it is not there. That's the one that goes on this roller for the chain. See how the restart goes. I think we're ready for testing. All right, so here we go. Finally got both saws out here. I got this big old log lifted off the ground. It's about 16 inches, but it's just a poplar. It's nothing crazy. I took it down last summer, and we're gonna use that to do some testing. First, we need to actually do the tuning. So I already got it so it can run, and you saw that in the shop. Now I'm gonna go ahead and basically repeat the process, but all out, all right? So we already know the idle set screw is good because it runs, right? And the chain, usually I would, if I was starting from scratch, I would adjust the idle set screw high enough to where the chain just starts going, and then either leave it there or back it off just a smidge, but you want it right there at a high idle. Then you adjust the low, and you do that by ear, and I'll walk you through it as I'm doing it, but it's gonna be a little bit harder to hear. You adjust the low up and down until you find the highest RPM you get, just by ear. I'm not using a tachometer, I'm just by ear listening for the highest RPM I can get at idle with the L, with the low idle set screw. So you'll hit a high RPM and then it'll start dying back off. Back and forth until you find that sweet spot where you achieve the highest RPM possible with the low set screw, and then back it out, at least I do, maybe 1/8 of a turn. I'd rather have it a bit on the rich side than a bit on the lean side. Once that's set, then I'll go ahead and readjust my idle set screw to about where I'm happy with. And again, I only do this by ear. Obviously, slow enough to where the chain's not moving, but fast enough to where it doesn't die. And you're probably gonna have to do this several times over the course of the first 5 to 10 tanks of fuel to allow for break-in of the engine. Then once I get to the high RPM, I just go ahead and hold it wide open and do the same thing with the high set screw. Run it in, run it out, run it in, run it out until I achieve the highest RPM I can, wide open, and then I'll back it off maybe 1/8 of a turn. Counterclockwise, opening it, 1/8 of a turn-ish, 1/8 quarter turn, somewhere in there, so that it's running a little bit on the rich side. Not a lot rich, just a smidge. So we already know it runs. We'll go ahead and get it fired up. I'm gonna do that right here on the ground. You need the brake off to do this. I'll let it warm up for maybe 30 to 60 seconds. So already I can tell throttle response is basically where I want it. I probably don't have to adjust it much, but we're still gonna go through the process. I want the idle a little bit higher than this. See how it's wanting to die? If I start adjusting that low set screw, it'll probably end up stalling out. So we're gonna adjust the idle up. think it's a little on the lean side. When it starts revving up like that, it's getting leaner and leaner and leaner. We don't want that. That's getting lean. It'll start to die out here. About an eighth of a turn. Could get a little bit faster, but we're gonna try it here first. Can't imagine how loud this thing's gonna be with a muffler mod. Hey, buddy. And that's about it as far as the tuning part goes. Now, it's going to need to be retuned as the saw breaks in. Everything's going to kind of loosen up and free up, and it's actually going to get considerably stronger and faster. Now, if you want to stick around, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the 620, let it warm up, and then we'll have an actual showdown. And I'm going to have to figure out how to do the video editing, but I'm going to go ahead and do down, up, down with each saw, and then I'll put them side by side with numbers and timing and all that crap, and it should be good. All right, so while the 620 warms up, I just want to point out that I'm not a professional logger, not a professional woodsman, but I process about 60 plus face cord of firewood a year. That's 3 rows, 2 rows per pallet, and it's about 65 feet long. That's what I did just last December. Both saws had brand new chains, so the Neotec has now got, what, 4 cuts with this chain. So I'll do 2 cuts with the other one, the 620, just to kind of even it out a smidge. And I brought a scale out. We'll see how much each one weighs here in a minute. I'll do a down, up, down cut, just basically standard pressures, as much as they can handle, just going smooth. Then I'll do a 4th cut with each one, basically pressing on it till I feel like it's actually gonna stall out or get really close. Maybe even just go ahead and stall it out, I don't know. Biggest difference I noticed between the chain tensioner, I mean, obviously that one's pot metal and it's kind of junk, but that one's built into the body. This one is built into the cover. Being built into the cover, you can slap the chain and the bar on super easy. There's no, you don't have that pin sticking out getting in your doggone way. This one, that pin's sticking out, so when you want to adjust it or put the bar and chain on, that pin's sticking out, so it's got to be adjusted just right to even get it on there. Feels like you kind of got to do a little wiggle with that screw, that adjuster screw. Chain tensioner, just a little back and forth, and it kind of starts to rock and tighten up. Okay, that's good. But I'll admit, going through that log, this one definitely felt stronger, but it better being 90 cc. All right, let's get a quick weight. Reading 0, 23.464246. So about 23.5 pounds. That seems pretty doggone heavy. 19.24. So yeah, that one's almost, what, 4 pounds heavier? Little quick tip for you. If you have problems starting your saw after it's been running, pull the choke out, push it back into its secondary choke position. Usually fires right up for me. Okay, so Neotec 892, a 90 cc saw or 92 cc saw, CS620P, 59.9 cc saw. Yeah, the Neotec definitely felt stronger. Obviously, I don't know the results yet of the actual timing, but this one had to have been quicker, I think. But it is 4 pounds heavier and 30 cc's bigger. So I'm kind of curious now what the ratio would be. Now, overall thoughts so far, I mean, honestly, it feels good. It feels strong. It feels just the way you would want a big saw to feel, at least from my limited experience. Full wrap handle, which is kind of nice, but not nothing I really need. I'm not falling monster trees every single day. You know, it's pretty rare that I'm actually doing that. So for a homestead, you know, a farm saw, obviously I think it's overkill. Why would somebody like my buddy who's a professional logger buy one? Machinery, you know, he's not hiking hillsides carrying a single saw with him all day long, falling, you know, 50-inch trees, timber. So for him, you know, he got that one with the 28-inch bar, and I actually got him a 36 and a 42-inch bar the other year that he can put on his 660. But, you know, for something like this, apparently some of their machines can only grab up to a 20-inch diameter trunk. So you buy a bigger saw, or maybe it's a 28-inch. I don't remember. It was something along those lines. But he has to go in there every now and then and just clear out, you know, a dozen or so trees, or fall a couple dozen trees. Why spend $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 on a saw that you're only going to use a handful of times throughout the year, when a $400 saw will do the same thing and you're really not out anything? So I could see that, I can understand that, and I can respect that. Appreciate it anyway. I still prefer my saw, but if you're really looking for that farm saw, the Farm Boss, the Rancher, and the CS 590 Timberwolf, those three you can't go wrong with. I would still argue that the 590, the Echo CS 590, is by far the best bang for the buck. You know, you're looking at $4.25 from Home Depot to get a 60cc class saw. Basically the same thing as the 620. The 620 just has a few extra modifications to it that makes it a little bit more sturdy and longer living saw, a little bit stronger. It can run a little bit faster. So that's all I got for this video. Hey, I appreciate everybody stopping by. If you like this kind of stuff, take a quick second, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next video.